Hey CS260, this is Professor Jensen here to give you a quick tutorial on how to use MongoDB Atlas for your Node Mongo projects so that you don't have to actually install the Mongo database yourself either on your development machine or on your production server. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to actually go and create an account on MongoDB Atlas. So if we just search for MongoDB Atlas, and skip all the ads, come here to a link that will then allow you to try it for free. No credit card required, and you can basically put whatever you want in here. So I'm going to actually use a Melanator address so that I don't actually give them any credentials and I don't care what happens to this account. So I'm going to do like, super cow at melanator.com. And my name is Super, and I'm definitely a cow, and my password is something very memorable. Agree to the terms, get started for free. Now, while that's going, I can go over to Melanator, and I can look at the Super cow inbox, and I've got there an attachment. The link is in here somewhere, but I can never find it, so I just go to the links tab here, click on that, and it says my email is verified. I can go ahead and continue. It welcomes me, and you can say I'm here to build a new application, and I'm going to build something for business intelligence, and my preferred language is JavaScript. And then I want to select the free tier here and go ahead and create a shared instance on Amazon. Virginia's fine. And go ahead and create the cluster. And then I provided my credentials for an account previously. Now I'm going to provide my credentials for the database itself. So this is what you're going to actually use to connect to the database. So I'm going to call this CS260 as my username, and my password is going to be CS260 password. How about that? So if we actually show that there, we've got CS260 and CS260 password. All right, then go ahead and create the user. And that's all good there. I want to connect from my local environment, and then it's asking me the IP address that I'm going to actually use to connect to it. Later on, we're going to change this to allow it to connect from anywhere, but for right now, I'm just going to say connect from my current IP address, and that is great. So push, finish, and close, and go to the database. This takes a little bit to actually provision it and build it up here. But then once it's done, we're all good. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that off. And dismiss that. Then we just have to wait for this thing to actually load. So like it says, it takes a couple minutes. So while that's going, I'm going to pop over to the code, and I've got just a few little sample projects here that we're going to use in order to demonstrate that it's working. So the first one is just a simple insert of a collection. So I have over here a file of JSON objects. So these are just arrays, and these are also completely valid MongoDB database documents also. So it's like a simple B&B kind of thing with 3 different rentals available there. And then I'm going to bring up this JavaScript file here. It's going to use the connection URL that I'm going to get in just a minute here from my Mongo database. It's going to then, in the main function, which gets called down here with a catch block if something goes wrong, create a Mongo client that I got by importing MongoDB here. And then I'm pulling in my listing data right here. So I'm going to connect with that URL I'm going to get in just a minute. And then once it's connected, then I'm going to use the insert mini command on the database, which is the B&B named database, and the collection, which is the listings collection. So that will just insert all of those documents in there. and then it'll print out the number of documents that were actually inserted. So the only thing we're actually missing here is our actual collection name. So that finished creating. So I've actually got a cluster now, and it has a database in it. And if I push this connect button, it will actually tell me, ask me some questions. How do I want to connect to it? I want to connect it to my application. My driver is Node.js for and later. And then it gives me the actual connection string that I can use to grab onto it. So I'm just going to grab this part right here and copy that. If you click this, then it'll give you like a full example of code to actually do it, but we've already got our code, so we're good to go. So I'm going to toggle back over here, and I'm going to replace my URL, my connection string, to actually put that in here. I'm not going to use my first database because I've got my database there, so I can, that's just the one you put on the end of your connection string is just the default database that it connects to. We actually specify down here that we're going to connect to that one, so we don't have to do it, but we can also supply it in the connection string. Now I got to replace my password with our actual password, which is CS260 password, and it's going to that cluster there, and we should be good to go. So if I put a breakpoint here and come down to my terminal window and tell it that I want to go to a terminal window, and you can see I've already got a JavaScript debug terminal, but I could have created another one here by just going like that. So that allows me to run this node code, this JavaScript code here, and hit my breakpoints. So now if I do node simple insert.js, and do an npm install first, and then do my node simple input, then there you go. That'll actually run, the debugger attaches, and I'm on my breakpoint. So if I hit F10 now, that will skip down to the main and then call into here. So if I put my breakpoint here and then run, I got my 3 documents inserted, and then some little funky thing. Oh yeah, must have accidentally typed that in there while that was there. So it all ran fine, and then it hit my finally loop and killed it on that little typo I had in there, but everything's good. So if I actually go back over to my database now and view my collections that have been created, then you can see my BNB database was created, and my listings are there, and it's actually done a search. So the MongoDB Atlas interface gives you 2 advantages. Number one, it creates your database for you, so you don't have to do and deal with any of that. You can access it both from your local development machine, and you can also hit it from your production machine just by providing that connection string that we showed you earlier. And it also provides you with the ability to see what your collections look like, and you can actually do like queries right in here to test out things that you want to, and that will all work fine for you. So the last thing that I want to show you in here is that we can come over to the network access, and when we set it up so it only be from this IP address. So as long as that's the only place you're going to connect to it from, then that's fine. This is kind of like your firewall. It's going to only allow that address to come in. So I can actually add another IP address and click this button here to allow it to come from anywhere. And then that puts in a sitter, which is that none of the IP address values are actually important. And so you can hit it from any IP address. So let's allow from anywhere and confirm that. And so now I can hit it from my IP address or from anywhere. And so since I can hit it from anywhere, I can just drop out mine, and that's fine. And then my query should still work. We'll test that here in a minute as soon as that pending spinning dial of happiness goes away. Which it should in just a moment. We'll actually try and make a connection while it's thinking about that. So back here on this code that I've got running, I can now run my insert again if I wanted to, and that's going to just stick the documents again, and maybe that's fine. Let's go ahead and do that since I actually crashed on it before. I'll take my breakpoint off and just let it run. So if we run it again, then our debugger's attached. It did the connection, inserted 3 documents again, and everything was good. Yep, and that finished while we were talking there. So if we go back over to our database and look at our collections and go and look at our listings, we should have 6 of them in here right now. We've got 2 repeats on there. So my inserts work fine. I'm able to connect to it. Everything's cool there. And now I can do like a different example of something going on here where I actually do like, a query on that. So once again, I'm going to need my connection string to actually run from my code. So if we use the same one we have there, and we're going to do this little program, which instead of what we had before we were inserting data, we're actually going to connect to the database in the collection and then call find on that. And then we're going to get an array from it, and then we're going to use a for each loop to iterate through each one of those results and print them out to the client. So we're good there. If I bring this up just a little bit, we can put our breakpoint if we want, but it's not really that interesting, so we'll actually just let it run. So if we do save our file and do node simple find this time, then you'll see the debugger attached, and it actually printed out all 6 of our documents straight from the database. So we're able to use that Mongo database to handle queries, and I can even do an update on it if I wanted to, or I can do like a mongoose call to actually use the mongoose code library to wrap my mongoose connection, my Mongo connection. But I'll have to once again do the same thing where I replace this with our lessons and our DB, and we're all good here. So that code will also run if we wanted to. This one's much more complicated. I won't go into the details of what that's all about. You can learn about Mongoose in the tutorials, but that would also work. So there you go. That's creating an Atlas cluster for MongoDB. It's free, very fast and efficient. You can hit it from both your development server and also your production server, and it works with any code that you actually run from your actual JavaScript environment. All right, good luck.